everybody, and welcome to episode 167 of the iRockKnits podcast. And today we are chatting with my friend Stephanie Lotven of TellyBeanKnits. Hi, welcome.
Hi, everyone. Hi, thank you so much for having me.
I'm so glad she's here. I have wanted to have her on for a while because she is a color work girl, and I am all about the color work and all of her patterns. I've known Stephanie. When do you think we met?
Oh my
ZK
gosh.
or Stitches Midwest? That's what I was thinking.
Gosh, yeah, 9 years ago?
Yeah.
8 years ago? It's been a long time.
Yeah.
I don't remember which was first. Sorry, excuse me. I don't remember which one came first. Gosh, I miss those Stitches events. You get to meet so many fun people.
Oh, I know. I agree. And it was so nice. It was centrally located. It was easy for us to get to and to go to. But yeah, so we met, and Stephanie lives in Indianapolis, right?
Yeah, Bloomington, just outside of Indy.
Oh, South Indy, Bloomington. And so I have known her for a number of years, and we have traded designer fiascos and designer
advice. You've given me so much advice,
information and stuff, but we also designed a disastrous pattern many years ago together.
Just thinking about that, actually, sometimes you have an idea and it seems like a good idea and the people are all amazing, and then it turns out the people are amazing, but maybe the idea wasn't so great.
It was really funny.
Yeah.
So it was called Love Letters. It was a mystery knit along. And I did it with you and Megan and Lisa. Yep. And we each designed part of a cowl. So we got yarn from Bleeding and Fiber Arts, and it was a Valentine's Day kind of make something with your friend situation. And so there were kits that were going to be available. So there were a lot of cooks in the kitchen.
Yes.
There was yarn in the kitchen, and there were 4 designers in the kitchen, and we got it done.
We did. It got finished. It was a thing at the end. It exists in the world.
Yeah, it does. So I'll put a picture in. It's cute. It's absolutely cute.
It is really cute.
The design was not the issue. The issue was working with 4 people and colors. I had colors I wanted to use. Stephanie had colors she wanted to use, and you didn't know what you were going to get until the person in front of you finished, and then you would get the next section, and you wanted it to be a little cohesive. And I was designer number 4, so I got it at the end, and there was so much already going on in it, and I'm like, I'm just going to put on an I-cord and bind off.
Yeah.
Whoa, I added some, but it was an adventure.
It was.
There were so many emails. I remember standing in my parents' bathroom and holding up a towel and wrapping it around my neck and taking pictures and sending it to you guys and be like, okay, are we going for just a tube? Are we going to have a V? Are we what is our shape?
I remember this conversation.
And we're trying, we went round and round and round and round and back and forth to
I've never worked so much on such a small portion of knitting.
Yes.
Yeah, such a small section of one piece.
Yes. But I do think that it may have been one of the first of a cowl that you now do.
Yeah, all the time. Yeah,
right?
And I love mystery knit alongs. And I love it all you guys. So I found that whole process was a strange combination of super confusing and totally amazing. Because before that, we would see each other at events. But during that time, we were Zooming together and chatting. And so that was really nice, actually. And it was really telling. Lisa and I had done a lot of collaborating together before, but never where we were designing one garment. We were putting collections together. It was one of the ways we started working. Yeah. And so it was really interesting to see how everybody worked differently through the process. That is always eye-opening to me. Yes. I had already had a peek into Lisa's process was so different than my process. And so it was really cool to see all 4 of us having a different experience with it. Yeah, but it's true. I came out of it, and instead of thinking, oh, I'm never doing cowls again, or I'm never going to do mystery knit along again. I came out and I was like, I'm going to do so. I love cowls so much, and I knit them so frequently. They're my most worn, like knitted object are cowls. And mystery knit alongs, I've been leaning really hard into those. They are really
Yeah.
like one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah. Well, and you've taken it and kind of run with it. So I was looking at your Ravelry, and you have 157 patterns out there right now.
Wow. Oh,
And
I don't know that number.
yeah, that's a lot, right?
It is. It's a
And
lot.
and you have 35 cowls.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that number either. Well, thank you for checking that out. Yeah.
Well, and I
I
just
can't.
sorted and I counted, but
Yeah.
definitely are cowl heavy, but
Yeah.
not what I would consider a typical cowl shape from what most people would think of, like just a
Yeah.
round circle around your neck, like a gaiter. That is not what we're really talking about. You can
Yeah.
see behind um,
Yeah.
Stephanie and on her that she is designing all over color work shawl cowls that definitely are that you do a mystery once a year or twice a year.
So I started doing twice a year now. So I started off doing Halloween mystery knit along. So this was last year's mystery knit along. This is the Witch's Brew. And I started doing a Halloween mystery knit along 2 years ago. So we've only done 2 years. And then this last year, I got lots and lots of requests for a Christmas mystery knit along. So I added in the Christmas mystery knit along. And gosh, it was so much fun. So let me show you the first year. So the first year for Halloween, I did the haunted house. And what we did is this is 13 days in a row that we knit one section a day for the first 13 days in October. And I honestly thought I love the holidays, like as soon as the leaves start to turn, I'm like, get out the decorations. I want every room. I managed to decorate every room in the house this year, both for Halloween and for Christmas. And so I honestly thought like I put so much work into this year's pattern. By the end of it, the first year's pattern I think wound up being, when you put all the clues together, over 70 pages. I had 18 tutorials or something like that in the mystery knit along, and it was enormous. But I finished it and I really did think like, oh, I'll be the only person that wants to do this. But I was so excited about it because I love Halloween. And then a lot of Halloween knitters came out, like so many Halloween
Yeah.
knitters came out. So it was just like a blast. We had so much fun during the first year. And I had been designing.
Can you tell how you run it? You run it on
Yeah.
Ravelry?
So I run it on Ravelry and I run it on Instagram. And what we do is we have like I call it the pregame. We have a pregame in September where everyone's getting their yarn together. The cowls, so far my mystery knit alongs have used 6 colors, which if you've ever done stranded color work, putting 6 colors together, it's challenging. And especially if you haven't seen the finished object. So I put out a guide for how to put the colors together, and then we are on Instagram and we are on Ravelry in my group, on my group page, TellyBeanKnits group page, and we just get on and chat about what yarns will go together. We talk about what contrast is going to make sense, where the light colors will make sense and the dark colors will make sense. And that's really fun. Everybody's like sharing their yarn. I love seeing inside of people's yarn stashes. It's like maybe my favorite part of the mystery knit along. Lots of people buy kits, and there are so many incredible kits available during that time. But it's also just
Yeah,
like,
because you've worked with many dyers to come up with
yes,
kits, not just one.
yes,
You do a whole bunch.
yes. We had I can't remember exactly how many we had at Christmas this last year, but it was quite a few. I want to say we had almost a dozen different dyers. And then I work with Miss Babs for my main kit. And the great thing about Miss Babs is that they are very much like, rising tides raise all ships. And so they are very open to, tell everybody about it, get as many yarn dyers involved as possible. And so you just get I love that when everybody gets to share in the fun all at once. And I feel like whenever I was a kid, the anticipation around the holidays was so high, and there was always somebody making that magic happen for you. You're like, mom is in the background or your grandma's in the background, and she's like pulling all these strings to make the puppet show work. Like costumes are coming
Yeah.
together, and like
Yeah.
candy is going into bowls, and like, anyway, my mom is very into the holidays too. And as an adult, you just don't have that joy as accessible to you. You're pulling the strings, right? Like
Yeah.
you're making everything happen. And I have young children, so I have a seventh grader and I have a fourth grader. And so like I do a lot of that for them. But I want that as an adult. I want somebody going like, oh, the seasons are coming, like it's about to get cold. Those can be hard months for, especially for, I feel like, especially for moms who are working really hard. And you want somebody who's like willing to make the magic. And I can't get enough of Halloween. I can't get enough of Christmas. I also love Valentine's Day. So, like, it's great to have, if I was making things come together for the mystery knit along, but having so many people sharing the costumes they were making for their kids, showing the yarn that they were putting together, like getting out their Halloween decorations. We have like a skeleton that shows up dressed in the pieces of the cowl every day. It's just a lot of fun. And then the first year I did was only Halloween, and then this last year we also did Christmas. And so this was the Christmas cowl, is the MerryMaking Cowl, and we did this one for 12 days, December 1st to the 12th. And it just made it so that like the holiday fun just it lasted so much longer. So it like started at the beginning of September, and then I got to enjoy it until the end of December. And then we're our like family's host. So we had like 10 days of hosting. So it was just like so much good seasonal fun this year. So I'm planning to do it again next year. That's my big plan. I already have Halloween and Christmas plans in the works.
Oh, good, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So when you're hosting it on Ravelry, are people
Yeah.
just posting in a thread, or are you also having Zoom meetups too?
So I've never done a Zoom meetup. I've been thinking about doing a Zoom meetup. We have a lot of people involved. So right now, the way that I run it is that I have in the group, we have a dedicated thread for the getting ready chat, and then we have a dedicated thread for every single clue. Actually, it's two for every clue because we have a spoiler thread and then we have a chat thread. And so it's very intense at the beginning of the month because since it's only 13 days long, but you get the clues every single day. So they're
Yep.
bite-sized little sections. And since they're teeny little sections, they're really pretty manageable. It gets larger as you go through towards the end, but we keep them relatively small. And a lot of people manage to finish in the time frame, which is really impressive. I run the KAL for a month, but you get all the clues in the first 2 weeks. And so there's just like a lot of activity all at once. I have never done a Zoom meeting. I've thought about it, but I get up. It's like having a launch every day for 12 to 13
Yeah.
days.
Yep.
So I get up at 4:30 every day during the mystery knit along, and I have to essentially get it to everyone, right? I have to get it to all the people who bought it through my website, and then all the people on Ravelry. I need to update everybody's libraries, and then I need to make sure all of the new threads are up, and then I need to announce it all both on my pages and then announce it on Instagram and make sure. And then I have to respond to all the comments. So I try. The first year I wanted to respond to absolutely everything because I was so excited about it. We had a lot of people involved. And so this year I tried to be a little better and not like have my fingers in everything, but it's a lot. I read every comment. So for those days during when those first 13 clues are coming out, it's all I do. I could be on my computer looking at or responding to a comment from 4:30 until bedtime every day. And my husband now knows. He's like, mom's not available to drive you places. It's October 1st through the 13th.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
About how many people do you have participating, do you think?
So this year for the Halloween Mystery Knit Along, gosh, it's hard to say. We wound up with us over 700 projects on the Mystery Knit Along, but hundreds of people. And then there's some overlap with Instagram and Ravelry, and then there's some that just doesn't overlap. Some people only do Ravelry and some people only do Instagram. So I think we have quite a few. Some people don't finish, but like they'll finish afterwards. So yeah, I'd say
Yeah. Oh
at
no,
least,
because I would say we usually say about half, right? If you see 700 projects on Ravelry, about half the people aren't posting on Ravelry,
yeah,
right? Like that,
yeah,
like if you see 5 projects on Ravelry, that means that probably 10 people are knitting it. I mean,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, I think
So,
that sounds
so a
right.
lot. Yeah.
A lot. Yeah, it's very busy and extremely fun. And it's like, in my opinion, like the most enthusiastic seasonal knitters are the Halloween seasonal knitters. And then Christmas was super fun too. It was very busy for Christmas, but less so than Halloween because I think there's Halloween, that beginning of October is like prime knitting time. The leaves are
Yes.
changing. People are thinking
Yep.
about like what they're going to wear for the fall. And then Christmas, you're busy. Like we're busy in December. It's like the
Yep.
busiest month
Yeah.
of the year.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we still had, I think I still had over 500 projects for the Christmas mystery note. So it's very busy too and
Yeah.
really fun. Just like so
Yeah.
much fun. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what do you think was maybe one of your favorite mystery cowls that you've done, or some of the knitting designs that you have? Because you've designed hats and mittens and shawls and sweaters. Like it's not just all cowls. I want to be clear
Yeah.
to people on that. And every time I teach my Latvian braid class, I show your till death mittens that have the Latvian braids around the
Thanks.
wrist. I mean,
Love
I
that
have a
design.
picture of it and I show it up. I show it every time I teach the Latvian braid because people are like, well, where can I put Latvian braids? Right. Like I teach the
Everywhere.
class and I'm just like everywhere on your
Yeah.
neckline, on your wrists, on your socks. Right. So I have some samples. I have a sample of a sock that has it. I have a sample, and then
Yeah.
I'm teaching my choose your own path hat, cowl, and mitt set. But so
Yeah.
we just make the hat in class. But yeah, I show your till death. I'll put a picture in of those too, because how many are there?
Thanks.
Like 8 Latvian braids
I
stacked,
think there are
maybe
8.
about.
I love that cuff so much. I feel like it reminded me so much of a friendship bracelet. The friendship bracelets,
Yes,
whenever I was a
yes,
kid that you would wear, I would wear them so thick especially after summer camp. I would just be loaded up like I had
yep,
X-Men cuffs but they were all
yep,
friendship bracelets. So that was the inspiration for that. But yeah, it is. It's quite I love the texture of Latvian braids. I love to knit them. I love the color combinations. And so, yeah, there should be more Latvian braids in the world. I'm glad you're out there singing
yeah.
the praises on the Latvian braids.
I am. I teach that. That was one of my more popular classes, and it's not hard,
No, it's
right? Like
not.
everyone can do it because everyone that would come to class already knows a knit and a purl, and that's all you have to do,
Yeah.
right? And so
Yeah.
they're just like, "Is that it?" Right? And I'm like, "Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
not that. It's 3 rounds. We got it. You got it. Everybody's going to be successful in this
I
class."
love
So
those
yeah,
techniques
show us
that make
some
you
of
look
your
like a
other.
genius but aren't that difficult. Those are my
Exactly.
favorite ones.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, you're right. I have designed quite a lot of different. I I I do have a tendency sometimes to fixate. So like whenever I was writing my self-striping book, I was very focused on, I was so excited about self-striping
Oh
yarn.
yeah. Well, we should show that. Do you have it handy?
Oh yes. I have a copy of it hiding behind
I
me.
do too,
So
but it's in the other room. Knit
so
Happy
here's
with
Knit Happy
self-striping
with
yarn.
self-striping yarn. Yep. So I released this book in 2020. I wrote it during the pandemic, which was really like both the worst and the best time to have written a book. It was really good to have a large project that I was working on that I could focus my energy and my time on. So that was really like a gift to be able to have something that wasn't the pandemic to focus on because it was, I mean, you've written a book, so it's like having a child, it's like having a
Yeah.
baby. And so it was wildly stressful and extremely fun. And I could have been focusing on much more. Like my husband was, homeschooling our kids and we were juggling everything at the house. And so I remember that time as being extremely knitty. Like it was so full of knitting. So really like that was, and the yarn makes me so happy. So yes, I designed 25 self-striping yarn patterns for this book, everything from mittens to shawls to sweaters to cowls. The only thing that's not in this book is socks. So the whole idea for the book was that I was looking for ways to design self-striping or to use self-striping yarn in non-sock projects. I love self-striping yarn, and my friend Lisa of Paper Daisy Creations, she got me hooked on self-striping yarn. She's a really talented sock designer and a sock fanatic.
Yes.
She'll knit socks and then she'll be like, "Oh, to relax, I also knit socks." And so
Yep.
she had gotten me hooked on self-striping yarn, and the first year that I found self-striping yarn, I knit 20 pairs of socks. But self-striping yarn is expensive, and so I was looking for ways after I finished it to just not put it in my shoes. I just like wanted to show it off more. And
Yes.
so before the book came out, I put out a sweater called the sock arm sweater. I have a version of it, but it's the one from my book sitting next to me. So this is one of my samples from my book. This is a sock arm sweater. It has self-striping sleeves. So this is the cardigan version that I knit for my model, Kanisha. And
Yep.
when the original version came out, it's a pullover. And it was another one of those things that I was really excited about. I had taken all the things that I loved about self-striping socks, wanted something with like a good fit that could show off the stripes, that had lots of relaxing stockinette. And I just wanted to turn it into a sweater. And I just wanted to take these like glorious self-striping skeins and like make them the thing that was the focus. And so that was probably my first pattern to come out that was really like, for me, was like a hit. It was the first time I ever really made money on a pattern. I I put it out when it first came out the very first day. I put it out for $1, which looking back, I'm like, why would why did I like undervalue what I was doing so much on that first day? But I also, there was a huge benefit, which was that it got into people's libraries for the first time and people got to see what I was doing. So that was really exciting. So,
Uh,
but in the
I
first 20,
remember I remember when the sock arms sweater came out.
really?
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
I
It
had
it was
never
a
had
hit.
Yeah, so I'd never had any real attention on my patterns. I've been like working away and I compulsively design. So Lisa and I talk about this really frequently. So I talk about Lisa a lot because she's like my knitting bestie. Um, but if probably, I've been designing now for 11 years, and if I didn't make any money at all designing, I'd probably still be doing it because I just can't, I just love it. I just like can't help myself. So, but that was the first time that it even occurred to me that I could make any money designing. Um, and I
We
really
just had that
love,
conversation at my house
yeah,
because we're doing my taxes and I'm
yeah.
still in that. He's like, I think your expenses are going to probably work out to equal your income this year again. The tax man and my husband looks at me and he's like, you work so hard at this. And I
Yes.
said, but I was able to go on some trips with,
Yeah.
I went on a couple of trips to Rhinebeck and things like that. And, I could buy the yarn that I wanted to buy. But yeah, I said, yeah, isn't that the goal? And he
Yeah.
said, no, that's
No.
not the goal to have your expenses equal your income. No, that would not be the goal. So, yes.
I mean, it's an enormous, I've never sat down and put together like the hours that I work on it. It's an enormous
Oh,
amount of work.
yeah.
I mean, the number of hats you have to wear, and it's like you're doing a podcast. Like I haven't even ventured into anything that has to do with video. It's just like it really, you do it because you love it, right? I love
Yeah,
it so
exactly. Yeah.
much. And so yeah, so that was the first time that I had a pattern that I feel like anyone really looked at. I mean, I had a core group of amazing knitters, that like a very small group that knew who I was, and a lot of them were testing for me. Like my testers are so incredible, and some of them have been testing with me since I was like knitting tiny baby socks for Telly, who's now in middle school. Like they've done every test for such a long time. They were so dedicated right from the beginning, and I'm so lucky for that.
Yeah.
Um,
I have a
but
really strong core of,
yeah,
I have a lot on my list, but I have a few that will say yes every time. They
yes,
say yes every time and they get the yarn and they do. It's really incredible. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
that's a part of the industry that doesn't get a lot of recognition.
yeah,
People who test knit and and don't make any money doing it.
yeah.
It's
They're so
yeah.
passionate and so talented. That's the other thing is the real, like I talk with test knitters really frequently. And the thing is that the kinds of skills that go into designing and the kinds of skills that go into testing, there's a lot of crossover, but there are a lot of skills that testers have that I just simply don't have.
Oh,
Like
for sure.
careful, like eagle eye detail, attention to detail that is absolutely amazing. I'll look at before my designs go into testing. I think I look at every page. Feels
Oh,
like a
for
hundred
sure.
times. And then
For
someone will point
sure.
something out, like, that's missing. I'll be like, no, I did not. I did not realize that was missing. I can't believe I like, thank you so, so much for catching this. Like you save the testers that catch the mistakes in the patterns before they go live. They're saving all future knitters so much time and effort.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure. I have 3 emails this morning. I'm in a test right now for a farm yarn shawl
Yeah.
for Ross Farm and Lavender Lune and Get Bent's Farm, and they're like, I think that you missed the word not, NOT. I think it should say, and I'm like, that's a big change.
Yeah.
It should stack and it should not stack. That's a big
Yeah.
difference, right? How did you miss the word should not stack or should stack, right? It's
Those
not
are
going
the
to work.
things, though.
What? Are you
But
kidding
you've looked at it so many times, it's hard to see it, right? Like it's hard to like.
Oh,
I feel like
yeah.
my brain. I'll read over it and read over it. I have to actually physically change location for my final read through. So I like spend so much time on my computer. I'll print it out and then I have
Yep.
to go outside of my house and I have like a whole rhythm and ritual for it now that I've like honed, because if I stay in the same place, my brain does exactly the same thing over and over again.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, for
Yeah.
sure. I know. Just
Yeah.
happening this morning.
Yes.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, let's see what else things that I
Show
want to
us
show
something
you.
else.
Yeah, okay. So you want to see what's coming soon?
Yes.
I have one in testing right now. Okay, so I'm really, really excited about this. So we're talking about testers. So I have 2 tests right now. I have this shawl is in testing, is going to come out. It just went into testing yesterday. This one's not going to come out until the middle of April. And I'm really excited about it. It's all over lace, which I haven't done all over lace in almost a year. But then I have this cowl. So let's see if I can hold this. This is
Oh,
the Cloud
pretty.
Catcher cowl. And so we were talking about the cowl. I'm so obsessed with the shape. I'm going to show you the back. So this kind of cowl is worked flat to start, and then it's joined in the round and worked in the round at the bottom where the lace is happening. But this cowl is currently in testing. It's going to come out at the beginning of March, and I worked with Queen City for this one. And one of the things
Yeah.
that's hard to like capture is like this is a cotton and linen yarn.
Oh,
It's fun to knit. Like it has such pretty drape, and after a tricky January and February, am really excited about spring. So I feel like this is my first spring project that's going to come out this year, and I'm very excited about it. Partly because my testers are finishing up their projects, and they have just gone. I mean, they're doing the coolest things. I had one tester who decided to do it in a kind of self-striping that's made for shawls. And so it's got great big stripes, which is
yeah.
so pretty. And then I had another tester do it in mohair and wool.
Oh,
And so it's like ethereal. And then I
yes.
have another tester that's doing it in all white. And it's just so like, I feel like it looks a little like bridal, but it's so elegant. So I'm really pumped about that design. That
Yeah.
one's going to come out
That's
soon.
fun. That's
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
Really pretty.
So thank you.
You have a
Um,
couple lace things on the brain, right?
I
You had
do.
lace there and you had lace in that one. Yeah.
Yes, last year I did accidentally. So at the end of every year, I put in my newsletter, I put a little like retrospective of what I did for the year. When I put it together, I was like, oh, I designed almost exclusively color work in 2024. My heart must have been really in color work. The only design that I put out that was not color work was this one. I'll pull it down. Was this rainbow bouquet, and it is an all over lace design too.
Oh,
And I
pretty.
used it as like a like a brain reset. So I like it when there's some of the designs that are kind of like you can memorize it, you can keep working on it, and what you're really playing with is color. And so that was such a fun project in early in the year. But then the rest of the
Is
year,
that Miss Babs?
so
Who's
this is
yarn?
not Miss Babs. This is a yarn company called Coats and Co. It's a
Oh,
little
yep.
company on Etsy, and she has this just stunning kit, and the minis are really, really affordable. And so I bought them. I was like, I just have to have this. I seriously considered, I decorate with yarn a lot. And so
Yep.
I bought it thinking that I was just going to hang it up. Like I was just going to put it someplace on the wall and just admire it. And then it came in the mail and I cast it on, and I almost never do that. I cast it on the day that it came in the mail. I could
Oh
not
my gosh.
wait to put it on the needles. And I think partly because neon pink should really be in more things. Neon pinks and just should. It should be in more things. But the rest of the year, I knit color work, and I knit a lot of holiday things because I do really love it. So I had last year I put out so let's see. Another pattern that was a real hit for me, I'll show you one. Was this one came out a couple of years ago, the Boneyard Sweethearts hat.
Yep.
And so that was another one that kind of went gangbusters whenever it went live. And again, I was really surprised because I put it together and I was like, well, I love skeletons. I don't know if anybody else is going to love skeletons, but skeletons and hearts, that's really what where I live. And so I put out the mittens last year, the little mittens, and then I added a pumpkin head to the mittens, which I think I'm going to add some pumpkin heads to some of my already like pumpkin heads should go back in some of the patterns that are already out. And then I put out a hat that went along with my haunted house cowl because I got a lot of requests for that last year. And then I also had I specifically pulled
Because you
this.
could
This is
almost do a hat and cowl set with all of them, couldn't you?
Yes. Okay. Matchy things. The matchy set. That is really when it gets good, I think. I want to lean in. I want to go all in. So this year at Halloween was the first time that whenever we all went out in October, everyone could wear something. We could wear a hat and a cowl, and I like mittens, my kids and my husband, because my husband's very supportive and he likes the holiday knits too. So we were like out in full Halloween regalia this year. So it's just going to get better because before that we were all fighting over it. I mean, it would be like my 8-year-old would be like, "Mom, I really need the cowl for school." Like, okay, you're adorable. You can have it. So this is my sweater. This is the Boneyard Sweetheart sweater. I'm actually working on the kiddo version right now. I've been
Oh, you
swatching for the
are.
kid. Yes, I've gotten so many requests for the kiddo version. And honestly, I probably should have thought of that first, but I always think about what I want to wear
Yeah.
first. I
Yeah.
want to wear it first. I used to knit all the baby things first, and then I would design some adult versions. And now I design for me. And then if the kids ask for it a lot and I get a lot of messages, then I go back and I do the kiddo versions. So I'm working on the kiddo version right now. But yeah, so I also did, let's see, last year I got a request for flamingos, and my
Oh,
oldest is really, really into birds. And so I did the flock of flamingo cowl. And then the thing I'm really proud about in this cowl is that I invented or unvented probably, as Elizabeth Zimmerman would say, a palm tree stitch, which, comes in handy all the time. But it especially comes in handy if you have flamingos.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. In
So,
upper Minnesota, that's exactly what we're looking for. It's a palm tree
yeah,
stitch.
I thought so.
I Google for one all the time.
I was thinking of you, Cori, whenever I came up with that stitch. I was like, Cori really needs a palm tree. And then I also last year put out a sweater. Let's see, I have a couple of versions of it called the Gentle Rain that has, I did not publish the story behind this sweater, but has like a really, really crazy, a really crazy story.
I
So this
love
is
this. I love
oh,
this.
thank you. Yeah, this is the Gentle Rain sweater. So I'll show you the first version. This is in Lavender Lune. Gosh, her
Oh,
colors are so pretty. So I got this yarn from Sam several years ago, and I was originally going to, I mean, I was ready. I had this on the needles, I had knit the yoke, and I was having a hard time after the pandemic, and like I was knitting a lot of feelings into things, and I was trying to like get the kids back in the swing, and I put it down, and I told Sam, I was like, I just don't know if I'm going to be able to pick it back up. I'm just not sure when I'll be ready to do it. I had a lot of stress at this time. I need a break. And she was really understanding and totally awesome about it.
Do you know how nice that is to hear though, as a designer, when something is just not working and you're frustrated and you're on a deadline, or you've accepted yarn for collaboration and you
Yes.
have to just backpedal, like
Yeah.
yeah, it is that like constantly output of design that can get
Yes.
in the way of your creativity and your brain. And I just talked about that on the podcast with my
Yes.
Patreons. I was just like, you know what? I was so crabby 2 weeks ago. I was angry. I was frustrated. We were working on the taxes. My husband's
Yeah.
looking at the numbers. I'm looking at the numbers. They're not really. And I just said to him, I don't want to not do this.
Yeah.
I love teaching. He said, I know you do. I said, and I love designing. I just want to keep doing this. I wish I could make it a little more financially sustainable. He's like, you're fine. It's okay. But I got irritable, right? Crabby and
Yeah.
whatever. And I was knitting on a design, and I was just like, oh, right. Like frustrated with the
Yes.
design. And what I really realized is that and I've already said this, but I was working 24/7, 7 days a week. I'm
Yes.
not going to bed. I'm staying up.
Yep.
I'm not taking any time for like creative endeavors that might fill my cup other than
Right.
the design. And you're alone in your house, and I'm an
Yes.
extrovert, and
Yes.
I am just like, this is filling me up today because your energy is so high. And
Oh, thank
I'm
you.
home alone today. It's my
Yeah.
husband went into work, and I'm going to be on the computer for the rest of the day. And
Right.
it can just really, like, you're not getting filled up with the kind of the things you need. And so for you to
Yes.
say that you had to say to someone who dyed yarn for you, it's because I've had to do that twice
Yeah.
in probably in the last 10 years, where I've just said, you know what, it's not working out. I will get there,
Yeah.
but I have to rip out and start over, or whatever. So
Yeah.
I'm just saying, in the moment, probably not related to most knitters, but yeah, sometimes if you're knitting on something and you're hate knitting,
Yes. Oh
like
my
if
gosh. Yes.
then that becomes knitting fatigue and knitting burnout, and where you when people say they lose their mojo, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's because you want to knit, but you're not enjoying the process.
Yeah.
And you maybe are, working too much toward a product, right? And it's miles of stockinette in the round or whatever, and you're just like, oh, right. And
Yeah.
I just think I need I cast on 3 things for myself that I have no purpose
Yeah.
knitting on, that somebody else wrote. And I needed that reset of just having something that I'm taking with us in the car, that isn't a design where I'm writing notes on the console as
Yeah.
as we're
Yeah.
driving across. Like, I just needed something and it totally changed my perspective of just looking at someone else's words and someone else's
Yes.
thing. And we don't get to do that very much as
That's
designers.
right. Yeah, I almost never recreationally knit. I even like will cast things on without really an intention of publishing something, and I find I'll write up the pattern no matter what. Like fully, I'll do all the graphic design, I'll do the pictures, I'll get to the end, and I'll be like, I don't think I am going to publish this. But like I'm so used to the process of like putting together the product that like you get into a kind of rhythm. There is a lot of pressure to continually
Oh,
produce. And so like because of that pressure, I feel a crush, like a crunch about it really frequently. And so like I was just talking with Lisa about this, about how, I love the collabs. They're so much fun, but I'm going to be incorporating more stash diving myself. Like I have a lot of yarn. I feel like buying yarn and collecting yarn is almost a separate hobby from
yep.
knitting for me. I do both. and I love them both. But like I do collab a lot, and so I have a collection of fabulous yarn from great dyers that I don't really touch. And so I've started diving into that stash so that I know I can put things out on a timeline, but also to give myself the grace to fail. Because I never, I would say 99% of the time, I cast something on and it is not the thing that I wind up putting out. The first thing that I put on the needles is
Oh,
not what I'm going to put out. So, like I was saying, I had a January and February were tricky. We had kids were home a lot, they were either sick or we were out of school. And so I have a pattern I just put out called the Snow Blossom Mittens. And so they are, I'm gonna put them on so I can show you. They're sloped, they have a sloped gusset,
yep,
and
yep.
I went diving. Look at all the gorgeous yarn I have hiding in my stash. So I went stash diving. I had so much fun going through the yarn. And then because no one was waiting for the pattern to come out, I just kept knitting them. I just kept putting more mittens on my needles. And
I
I just
was
like,
shocked when I saw all the color work
were you?
samples. I was like, man,
This one's lined.
she did all the color samples. Wow, she did a lot of. I thought maybe you had a sample knitter knit some of
No,
those because
I
I
knit
was
all of
like,
them.
dang girl, you're showing
No,
it in
I knit
all the
all of them.
things.
Well, I fell. So like I told you, I fell on the ice and I had to rest, which I know some people like to rest. I hate it. I hate resting. Resting is like the opposite of my happy place. So I'm highly productive when I'm sitting down. I just knit. And the thing is that I kept finishing a mitten and thinking, oh, I wonder what those colors would look like if I use the same colors, but I just put them together differently. And the personality changes so much. And I haven't really, because the mystery knit alongs are so labor intensive and really they're not once the season for that starts for me it's not knitting intensive, it's a lot of computer time.
Yep, yep,
Because of that, yeah, because of that I needed, like you were talking about filling up your cup, I needed to knit, my I need to knit. Like,
yes.
and my yarn was calling me, and like I just wanted a project that I could really enjoy, and I wanted something. I mean, I will say this at the end of it, I felt like I when I put the pattern out, I could say 100%, this pattern's really fun. I enjoyed it through like 8 mittens. Like I loved every single mitten. And whenever I'd finish one, my kids would be like, "Are those for me? Are those for me?" And it was nice to be like, "Yes, you can have a
Yes.
mitten and you can have a mitten." Like they're not going to match because mommy just had too much fun putting the colors together. Um, but yeah, that, I mean, that happens to me really frequently. I try to find ways to keep the joy and to keep my energy up. But like sometimes it's just really hard. I mean, it's just really, really hard. So I'm gonna tell you the rest of the story of this sweater. So
Yes.
this sweater, I put it down. I had the yoke complete, and really, you can see like the bulk of the work of the planning for this sweater is the yoke. And so I had written the pattern. I mean, it was graded up to, I mean, up to I think I this pattern goes up to 66 inches something. So it was graded from like an extra extra small up to a 66. So it was a well graded pattern. I was really happy with how it was coming along, but I just couldn't do it. I was like imagining finishing that, starting another sample, needing to organize my model and all the graphic design, and I just said, I have to take a break from this. I was knitting a lot of stress into the sweater and I didn't want my memory of the knit to be the stress. So I put it down, but I didn't say it was totally done. I just told Sam I don't know when I'm going to be able to come back to it. So I finally was able to come back to it. We put it on, I put it in my knitting bag, got all the yarn out. And you know how when you put, I have a cabinet next to me that you can't see that's 3 tiers. And it's where I keep all the things that are in progress. And it's full. It's a good, full, well organized. I'm going to get back to this at some point. I've had an idea. I cast it on. So it went into that cabinet. And then I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to bring it back out. And it takes a while to like get yourself sorted. I had to re-swatch because my gauge changes over time, especially with color work. I feel like my gauge is constantly loosening up. And so I got it back on the needles, got all the yarn back in. I made sure that I had written down. I keep track of
Yep.
yardages so carefully. So I found all the information. I keep knitting journals. So I have like a backlog of all my knitting journals. I pulled out an old knitting journal to make sure I knew that I had all the yardage I needed. And I was going to take it. I caught back up on the pattern. I went through it. I kind of like redid a few things so that I felt comfortable with it. We packed it. I was like, I am going to knit the body of this sweater. Oh, it's going to be so relaxing. I'm going to come back and bring the joy back to the sweater. We were going to Michigan on our first family vacation after the pandemic. And we had packed the car and the kids, and we got an hour and a half from the house, and we got hit by a hailstorm which which totaled our car in under 5 minutes. So we saw a wall of rain, and my husband goes, "Wow, that looks strange." And then the rain hit us, and we had to pull off to the side of the highway. And within 5 minutes of pulling off to the side of the highway, we lost our front and our back windshield, and the whole car. I mean, it looked like we had been attacked by NFL players with baseball bats. It was wild. And my knitting bag was open at my feet,
Of
and
course.
the windshield broke into my lap in my knitting bag. And of course I'm wearing sandals, so I've got like glass in my feet, and like the kids are fine, Samson is fine, but we're stranded on the other side of the highway. I like looked down, I took my knitting out of my hands and put it back in the bag, and I pulled it closed, and I was like, and then I had to deal with my first, I feel like, really grown up emergency since the pandemic too. So it was like, we're stranded. It's 98 degrees outside on the side of the highway. And I mean, I have pictures of my husband holding the hail. It was the size of baseballs. I've never seen anything like it. We were stranded for like 6 hours. Anyway, we came back to no electricity, all of these things. But the knitting bag stayed closed. My husband was so great. He shook things out and all this, but the knitting bag stayed closed for 4 more months. And I one day came into the living room just like in tears, and Samson was so shocked. He's like, "What's the matter?" And I was like, "Well, I was going through my yarn cabinet, and I realized I kept that sweater, and it's full of yarn, knitting, and tempered glass. Does that mean that this sweater is done? Like, is it dead?" And he was so great. He's such a problem solver. He was like, "We'll figure it out. Let's see if we can figure it out." So he like put on these giant gloves and went outside and shook out all the tempered glass. And then we did some research and found out that we thought that we could wash it and pulverize the glass that was left in it. And so the thinking was, if it gets ruined in the washing machine, really, what are we losing? But it came out, because the thing I was the most worried about was I was going to put it back on the needles, and I'd spent the last 4 months trying to get glass out of my feet. And so I put it back on the needles, and I was worried I was going to get tiny shards of glass in my hands. But the washing machine trick worked. When I went, I really hesitantly knit like a few stitches a day for a couple weeks to see if anything would happen, and I was fine. And so I put it back on the needles and finished the sweater, and then like started knitting more samples. So I really love to knit samples. Like I've worked with sample knitters in the past, but it's because my job is so computer heavy and knitting is the reason I got into it. It's hard for me to give up samples, so I knit 3 samples. So I finished that sweater, and then I cast on another one. This one's in Lolo Did It. And then I also have, let's see if I have it nearby. I think I have
Is it
another
behind
one.
you? Is it
Oh,
behind
did
you
I
on
just
that?
like, yes. And then I have this one too. So I knit one for Kanisha, my model, as well. And so I love seeing what the colors will do when they come together. And my brain doesn't work in a way that I think other designers do, where they can like envision the finished product, like what the project's going to look like when it's done just by holding the yarn. I have to swatch it. I'm a huge proponent of swatching. And then I love to see the whole garment come together. So this, ironically, was not the reason that I designed it this way, was not to have a rain theme coordinated with the story. It was just to have a rain theme. So the top is supposed to be drizzle, and then in the clouds, and then this is supposed to be the heavy rain, and this is the precipitation under the clouds, and then the bottom is a puddle. But my husband jokes when I wear it that now that centerpiece is the hailstorm,
Yes.
because that's where I
Yes.
was whenever we got hit by the hailstorm. So that's what I was knitting.
Did you get to go on the trip? You had to go home.
We went home. Our family, we were meeting my husband's family in Michigan. And so we went home. We had a friend pick us up because we couldn't get a tow truck to come or anyone to come pick us up nearby because there were so many totaled cars on the side of the highway. So a friend drove from Bloomington, picked us up, brought us back. We had no electricity. Of course, we packed everything in open top tote bags, and we have the glass came down into every single bag. So my husband shook everything out. The electricity came back on at like 6 a.m. the next morning. My husband washed everything like a superhero, dried everything, and then repacked it all. And then we were able to get back on the road. I think it was like 24 hours after we got home. But I spent the entire vacation on the phone. We rented a car. I spent the whole vacation on the phone with the car
Yeah.
company, with the insurance company, trying to figure out, we're a one car family. And so once our one car got totaled, we were like, really don't know what we are supposed to do in the meantime. We can't rent a car forever, but that it was great. It all got worked out. The car was so obviously totaled, there was no question that it was going to be replaced. So my insurance company covered it. We got to go on vacation. The it was during the wildfires were happening in Canada. There was so much smoke in Michigan. So we were barely able to go outside.
Oh,
So it was like a whole, now I feel like I look back on it and the whole thing seems so like over the top. At the time, it seemed like everything was a tragedy, but now my kids look back on it, and even though the memories are not like fond memories, it's such like a big story for our family
yeah.
that I feel like it's gonna live in infamy for them their whole lives, and it's gonna make every future vacation that we get to go on as a family seem like a gift,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah, you can't go wrong after
Definitely.
that. There's no way for it to go wrong.
I can't believe that sweater has that story. That's, yeah. Yeah.
I must have manifested it with the gentle rain. I shouldn't have put the word gentle in the title before that before that trip.
Okay. Do you have some other things in front of you, or should we wrap it up? How are we doing? We've
Um,
shown a ton of stuff. I've taken notes
I've
of
shown a
all,
ton of stuff.
I've made a list, but yeah, we're
I
happy to see.
How about I show you one more thing because I am really
Yeah.
excited. I'll show you one thing from my book, my favorite sweater from my book,
I also
because
need the name of the one you're wearing.
oh, this is the friendship bracelet cowl.
Okay.
So this was written during when this was written when Taylor Swift was doing her Eras tour, and my youngest and I love Taylor Swift, and so this was our friendship bracelet inspired
Okay.
knit.
I just want
So
to have it for my show notes.
yes. Okay, so I'm going to show you this sweater. This is the sweater that was the original idea that got my book
Oh,
started.
I
This
have
is
the
the
yarn for this.
Do you? This is the Bright Axis sweater. So someone's going to message you about what the yarn is. So this is mustache yarn, and the yarn name is Kama, Kama, because like really the thing that shines so much in this design is this gorgeous rainbow that Mustache put together.
Yep.
And so I wanted to show this because I just got permission from my book publisher to start releasing the patterns from my book. So I'm really excited. I finally
Oh,
get to start releasing the individual patterns. So I'm really excited. I'm going to work on a DK weight version of this sweater this year. And then I'm going to get to release this sweater also. I have several
oh,
self-striping patterns,
fun.
yeah, planned for
Yeah.
this year,
No, I
actually.
love that. Because I was at sweater camp a year ago and you had your samples there. Because I texted
Yes.
you, I took pictures and I
Yes,
texted you
thank
and
you.
I said, your stuff is here. And so I bought a bunch of the yarns that were there for two of the different patterns, your cowl and your, is it a white sweater with colored speckles?
Yes. Wait, is it the backlit? I bet it's this, the backlit tee.
Yes, yes, yes,
Yes.
yes,
This
white
is a
sweater. Yep,
self-striping with color work
yep,
where my two favorite things overlap. Yes.
yes,
So
yes.
I know.
So
Yes. And this yarn was
I bought that yarn too.
stunning. Yes. This is Fab Funky Fibers.
For
This yarn is
someday, or some,
incredible.
yes. They had all
Yes.
the Fab Funky fibers.
Oh my gosh. She is an amazing, amazing dyer with just like such an interesting and
Such
genius perspective on color.
saturated. Yeah,
Yeah, so saturated and just like unafraid. I feel like she just goes for it every time that she puts colors together.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So. Oh, this was so much fun. You and I just need to do it more often because
I know
we're
we
sitting
need to do it
like
person.
this in front of our computers for hours and
Yes.
hours, and and just not interacting other than with our knitting and maybe our families when they're home, and then they think we're stressed all the time.
That's right. It's starting to get sunny outside in the last 2 days, and my kids are like, "You seem like you're in a really good mood." And I was like, "That's right. Mommy needs sunshine. I have to get out of the house."
Yeah, exactly. We're melting. We're melting here. We did not have snow this winter much at all. We did not get this. Oh yeah, no. We're way behind. We had a couple of snows and that's it. We've been and so I took Chevy to the dog park on Sunday, and the last snow we got was, I don't know, maybe 4 inches, and it was melting. It was such a mess. And my husband went into work today. He only goes in usually 1 day a week. And last night he said to me, no dog park, because the dog was mud. The back of the truck was mud. It was, and I said, what was I supposed to do? Turn around and come back home? He goes, yes. If you looked out in the parking lot and it was mud, and I said, oh, he had so much fun. So we had to completely.
That's right. The puppy had fun.
So he said to me, no dog park. I said, I'll just walk in the neighborhood, but it's still melty. So he'll get dirty. I have to do what we call at my house, the topless car wash, where you don't do the top, you just do the bottom of the dog, right? You just have to rinse the legs and the bottom part of the dog. Because that's the only part that will be dirty when we get home. So yeah, definitely. It's beautiful out. The sun is shining, and thank heavens. I think spring is coming, and
it's coming. I'm ready. I'm really ready.
Yeah, for sure. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
And I love your energy. You know, I love you, and we will continue to send each other help. I don't know what to do with this.
Oh, yes, I know. I value that so much. Your advice is always so incredibly helpful. Thank you so much for thinking of me and asking me to come. I really appreciate it.
I'm happy to do it because we have a similar love of color work and color. So yeah, for sure.
And now I know you're out spreading the word about Latvian braids.
I am. So if you have a random sale or two, you probably know Cori's teaching that class again. Hi. Is it time to be done? He's ready to be done too.
Okay.
All right.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right,
bye everybody.
I'll see you later.